Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take the most influential ideas shaping our world and, well, give you the mental shortcut to understanding them.
And today we are cracking open a concept that is so fundamental to everything, really. Motivation, personality, how you achieve things.
It really defines how we experience life itself.
That's right. Our analysis today is built entirely on the groundbreaking research of the social psychologist Carol S. Dweck. We're doing a deep dive into her work on two core beliefs, these two fundamental mindsets.
And these mindsets determine whether we see our abilities as, fixed and set in stone, or as something we can actually grow and
Yep.
cultivate.
Exactly.
So our mission for you, the listener, is to gain this knowledge quickly, but also really thoroughly. We're here to give you that shortcut by unpacking the core findings, the really startling stories, and the practical takeaways.
And these are the things that explain why some people, when they're faced with just massive setbacks, seem to thrive. They bounce back stronger.
While others, who might be just as talented, just crumble under the slightest pressure.
And we should start our journey right where Dweck did, with her very first unexpected observation. This was decades ago.
Right, as a young researcher.
Yes. She was obsessed with understanding how people coped with failure. Specifically, the idea of, feeling inadequate intellectually.
So she designed a study. She was watching students as they grappled with these really challenging puzzles.
Right. They started easy, but then they got very difficult. Almost. Almost unsolvable.
And she expected to see differences in how they struggled. I mean, some kids would get upset, some would probably just quit.
Standard coping strategies, that's what she was looking for. But what she saw was, well, she called it bizarre. Something she had never, ever anticipated.
What was it?
Some of the children, when they were facing these impossible problems, I mean, they're grunting, they're sweating, completely engaged. They didn't look frustrated. They didn't look like they felt inadequate at all.
They looked
Exhilarated.
exhilarated. That's not the word I'd associate with failing over and over again.
Not at all. She tells this story of one young boy who, after failing a puzzle, just pulled his chair up closer, rubbed his hands together, and said, "I love a challenge."
Wow.
Another one just said, "I was hoping this would be informative." They didn't see the hard problems as a judgment on their intelligence.
They saw it as an opportunity.
An opportunity for growth, for intense mental effort. The difficulty wasn't a start sign for them, it was a launch pad.
And that phenomenon, that joy in the struggle, that is the key to understanding these two mindsets.
It's the whole thing. These beliefs are the invisible frameworks that really determine how we approach our lives.
Right. Is it a proving ground where you have to constantly validate yourself? Or is it a journey of learning? Okay, so let's unpack this foundational distinction. And we should start with the fixed mindset.
Right, because as the sources note, this is where a lot of us naturally start, even if we don't really have a name for it.
So the core belief.
The core belief of the fixed mindset is, well, it's simple, but it's incredibly restrictive. It's the idea that your fundamental qualities are fixed traits.
Like intelligence or talent?
Exactly. Intelligence, artistic talent, even your personality traits, being dependable or caring or good with people. The belief is you have a certain set amount of these things.
And you can't really do much to change it.
That's the idea. And if you believe that, if you truly internalize that your abilities are this fixed quota, then your main concern in life becomes, well, it becomes being judged.
Everything is a test.
Everything. Taking an exam, trying a new sport, even just having a conversation. It's all about proving that you have enough talent.
And you become hypersensitive to being wrong or making a mistake.
Because a mistake might expose that you don't have enough. It creates a world where every action is scrutinized. It's about getting that affirmation that you are, special or naturally gifted.
And what's so fascinating is how this fixed idea runs completely counter to the tools we often use to justify it.
You're talking about the IQ test.
Exactly. We're all conditioned to think that an IQ score summarizes our permanent, unchangeable intelligence.
But the inventor, Alfred Binet, the French psychologist who created the test, he designed it for the complete opposite reason.
His mission was humanitarian, right?
It was. He wanted to identify children in Paris who were not benefiting from the public schools.
So he could help them.
Yes, so that new educational programs could be created to get them back on track. The test was meant to be diagnostic, not definitive.
It was about identifying a need for growth, not cementing a destiny.
Precisely. He hated the idea that intelligence was a fixed quantity. He called that belief brutal pessimism. He genuinely believed that with practice and training, we can literally become more intelligent than we were before.
So the very tool used to justify fixed intelligence was created from a growth philosophy.
That's the irony.
So if the fixed mindset is about judging this closed box of talent, how does the growth mindset redefine things?
It just flips the script entirely. The core belief in the growth mindset is that your basic qualities, they can be cultivated. They can be developed through dedication, hard work, and good strategies.
Now, this doesn't mean they believe anyone can be, say, Einstein or Mozart.
No, of course not. They respect biology and natural endowments, but, and this is the key, they hold that a person's true potential is unknown and indeed unknowable.
I find that idea of unknowable potential so liberating.
Isn't it? It means you can't possibly foresee what can be accomplished with years of passion and toil and training.
And history is just filled with examples of this.
Completely. Think about people we see as giants now, like Charles Darwin or Leo Tolstoy. They were considered pretty unremarkable, ordinary children.
No one saw them coming.
And in sports, look at Ben Hogan, one of the greatest golfers of all time. As a kid, he was described as completely uncoordinated and graceless.
So his famous precision wasn't natural.
It came from maniacal dedication. It was built, not born.
And the sources give some great examples from the arts, too, like the photographer Cindy Sherman.
Right. Her work is in every major museum, but she actually failed her first photography course.
If she'd had a fixed mindset, that would have been the end of it. I guess I'm not a photographer?
Exactly. And even Paul Cézanne, the father of modern art, his early paintings were described as pretty bad, with amateurishly painted people. It took decades of frustrating work for Cézanne to become Cézanne.
So these mindsets aren't just philosophies. They actually run our internal monologues, our moment-to-moment thoughts.
They absolutely do. The fixed mindset's internal voice is obsessed with judgment. When you succeed, it's I'm better than they are. When you fail, it's this means I'm a loser.
It's always a final verdict.
Always. Even in a relationship, a conflict means my partner is selfish or my partner is flawed. It's a permanent trait.
Whereas the growth mindset voice is focused on process.
On observation,
Yeah.
on learning, instead of I'm a loser, it says, okay, observe what happened, learn from it, I need a better strategy next time. It removes the personal label.
And you can see the real-world consequences of this in that study from the University of Hong Kong.
Oh, that study is a perfect illustration of the cognitive trap.
So set it up for us.
Okay, at this university, everything is in English. Classes, exams, all of it. So researchers measured the mindsets of incoming students who weren't fluent in English.
And the growth mindset students, logically, signed up for a remedial English course.
Of course. They saw a deficiency and an opportunity to improve. They wanted to get better.
But the fixed mindset students,
This is what's so telling. Even though not being fluent put their entire college career at risk, they were not very interested in the remedial class.
wait, they would risk their degree just to avoid looking like they needed help?
That's it. They were willing to put their whole academic future in jeopardy rather than take a class that would expose their deficiencies.
The need to look smart in the moment was more important than the long-term goal of becoming competent.
It completely overrode it. This is how the fixed mindset literally turns people into non-learners.
And that fear of exposure, it brings us to a huge difference between the mindsets, what effort itself actually means to them.
Right. To someone in a fixed mindset, effort isn't a good thing. It's terrifying. Because it's the ultimate tell. For the fixed mindset, effort is for the plotters, for the people who lack natural ability. The deep belief is, if you have to work at something, you must not be very good at it.
Which explains why our culture celebrates natural, effortless accomplishment so much.
Exactly. The pressure is enormous. They talk about the culture for female undergrads at Duke University, this pressure for effortless perfection.
You had to be brilliant and beautiful, but it had to look like you weren't even trying.
Because showing the strain, showing the effort, it meant you weren't naturally perfect. It invalidates the whole image of genius.
And I get the fear. The moment you try really hard and you still fail, you lose your excuse.
You lose the, I could have been great if I'd only tried safety net. The effort itself casts a shadow on your supposed talent.
And the sources tell that devastating story about the violinist Nadja Salerno-Sonnenberg to show the cost of this.
She was a prodigy, a natural. But when she got to Juilliard, her famous teacher, Dorothy DeLay, saw she had all these awful habits, bad fingerings, bad bowings that were holding her back.
But she wouldn't fix them.
For years, because the painful, visible effort of rebuilding her technique meant she'd have to admit her talent wasn't perfect, that she wasn't a finished product.
She was protecting the label.
Until delay threatened to throw her out. She said, if you are going to waste your talent, I don't want to be a part of it. Only then did she finally do the grueling work. The fixed mindset fought to the bitter end.
In complete contrast, the growth mindset sees effort as the whole point.
They admire it. They believe that no matter where you start, effort is what ignites that ability and turns it into accomplishment.
It's not a sign of weakness, it's the catalyst.
It's the engine of transformation. The story of the racehorse Seabiscuit is a perfect symbol of that.
Right, he was seen as this broken down, undersized, hopeless horse.
Totally. But through the sheer, dogged, growth-minded determination of his team, he became a national champion. He symbolized the triumph of effort over what everyone perceived as his deficiencies.
And you can actually see this difference in the brain at a neurological level.
This is where the research is just so cool. At a Columbia lab, they monitored brainwaves while people did a task and got feedback.
So what did the brainwaves actually show?
Okay, so when the fixed mindset people got feedback that they were wrong, their brains showed a big spike of attention. They cared about the judgment.
They processed the grade. I failed.
Yes. But right after that, they completely tuned out. Any information that would help them learn or correct the mistake, their brain just ignored it. They didn't care about the correction, only the evaluation.
But the growth mindset people were different.
Completely. They paid attention to the judgment, sure, but they paid even more attention to the information that would help them learn and stretch themselves. Their brains lit up for the corrective information.
They were hungry for the data that would help them improve.
Because their goal wasn't to be validated, it was to master the task.
This shift in attention, it defines everything about how you approach failure. For the fixed mindset, it's not data. It's a permanent label, a trauma.
A haunting trauma. And that can be so intense that it defines a person's entire life. The sources detail that incredibly dark story of Bernard Loiseau, the 3-star French chef.
In that world, 3 Michelin stars is the ultimate fixed label of perfection.
And he committed suicide after losing just 2 points in a different restaurant guide and hearing rumors he might lose a Michelin star, which turned out to be false.
But the idea of failure was enough.
The mere idea of it possessed him. It redefined him in his own mind. His internal monologue became, failure has been fraud.
That's terrifying. He felt he had no future because that perfect label was threatened.
And that unrelenting pressure to be perfect, the terror of being seen as a failure, it can also lead to huge ethical collapses.
Like the young reporters, Janet Cook and Stephen Glass.
Both were seen as these brilliant, precocious stars, but the sources argue they succumbed to the pressures of the fixed mindset. They were so afraid of admitting they didn't know something or needing help that they just fabricated stories instead.
Fabrication was easier than admitting imperfection.
For them, in that moment, yes.
So, on the flip side, how does the growth mindset process a setback?
For them, it's just data. It's informative. It's often motivating.
Michael Jordan is the ultimate example.
Absolutely. When he first came back from baseball, he tried to coast on his old talent, and the Bulls got knocked out of the playoffs.
A huge failure for him.
But it was purely informative. He said, you can't leave and think you can come back and dominate. I will be physically and mentally prepared from now on. The failure didn't define him. It defined his new strategy.
And they won the next 3 championships.
Exactly.
This difference even shows up in how people cope with something like depression.
Yes, a study of college students during peak depression season showed this huge divergence. The fixed mindset students, when they felt bad, they ruminated. They obsessed over their problems.
And they took it personally. This means I'm incompetent.
And the worse they felt, the more they let things slide. They'd stop studying, skip class. It was a total spiral.
But the growth mindset students.
This is what the researchers called really amazing. The growth mindset students, even when they felt just as miserable, the worse they felt, the more determined they became.
Wow. So they fought back.
They forced themselves to keep up. There's that great anecdote about the young man who was told he wasn't depressed because he was still functioning, still handing in his work. The growth mindset gave him the coping tools to keep going, even when he felt awful.
So when we move into these really high-stakes environments like pro sports, you see this myth of the natural athlete everywhere.
Yeah.
But the sources show well, it's just a myth.
It really is. It's the difference between seeing talent as the destination versus seeing it as just the starting line.
Take Muhammad Ali.
Everyone talks about his physical gifts, but his trainers always said his true brilliance was his mind.
He treated boxing like psychological warfare.
He studied his opponents relentlessly, not just how they fought in the ring, but their personalities, their psychology. He was looking for their mental jugular.
So his strategy against Sonny Liston wasn't just physical.
Not at all. It was to mentally destabilize him, to make Liston think he was crazy. Ali himself said his victory came from here, and he'd hit his forehead, not from here, hitting his fists.
And then there's Babe Ruth. He's the icon of the natural, right? The guy with huge appetites who just effortlessly hit home runs.
That's the image, but it's totally incomplete. Ruth's career was very inconsistent early on. After one particularly bad season, he made a pivotal choice.
He committed to discipline.
Complete discipline. He rigorously trained in the off-seasons, transformed his fitness, his whole approach. And that work led to the finest display of sustained hitting that baseball has ever seen. It was growth, not just genius.
The most powerful story of this kind of transition, though, has to be Billy Beane from Moneyball.
Oh, Beane's story is the perfect case study. As a player, he had all the natural ability in the world, but he was deeply fixed-minded.
So when he failed,
He'd go to pieces. He just didn't know how to fail. He couldn't process it constructively. He was trapped by his own talent.
and then he saw his teammate, Lenny Dykstra.
Who had much less raw talent, but Dykstra had, and this is the quote, no concept of failure. He'd strike out and just move on. No drama, just process.
And that was Beane's epiphany.
It changed everything for him. He realized mindset was the real predictor of success. And when he became an executive, he built his whole team on that principle. He bought players who were resilient, who knew how to fail constructively.
He bought mindset over raw talent.
Essentially, yes. And it leads right into how this plays out in business and leadership, where the mindset at the top can define an entire company culture.
You have the genius with 1,000 helpers model.
That's the fixed mindset leader, someone with a gargantuan personal ego who sees the company as a platform for their own greatness.
People like Lee Iacocca at Chrysler, or the leadership at Enron.
Exactly. They believe that great geniuses don't need great teams. They just need little helpers to execute their brilliant, infallible ideas.
And that creates an environment where no one can give them bad news.
It leads directly to what's called CEO disease. The powerful CEO creates a world that just caters to their need for validation.
So they only surround themselves with people who tell them good news.
They build an echo chamber. They actively hide from problems, and the culture becomes brittle, dishonest, and takes on huge risks because no one can speak the truth.
In stark contrast, the growth mindset leader sees it as a journey.
A collaborative journey. They start with a belief in human potential and see the company as an engine of development.
Jack Welch at GE is often used as the example here.
Yes, but what's important is that he had to go on that journey himself first. Early in his career, he was seen as arrogant, couldn't take criticism, a bit of a fixed mindset genius himself.
And he had these wake-up calls like the Kidder-Peabody disaster.
Massive failures that taught him the difference between hubris and true confidence. He realized true self-confidence is the courage to be open to welcome change and new ideas.
He learned to be a guide, not a judge.
And he actively got rid of the brutal, fixed-minded bosses who crushed people. He focused on mentoring and growth.
And that changes the whole atmosphere.
It creates what the research calls a culture of development. Employees have more trust, more empowerment, and their managers see more potential in them because they're actually looking for it.
Versus the culture of genius companies.
Where they're always hunting for stars, but then the fixed culture suppresses the very talent they're trying to buy.
And this mindset we adopt, it's not just for work. It deeply affects our personal lives, our relationships, starting with a finding that really messes with a lot of parenting advice.
Yes. This is one of Dweck's most important, most replicated findings, the danger of praise.
Specifically, praising a child's intelligence, telling them, "You're so smart."
It actually harms their motivation and their performance down the line.
But wait, that's what everyone tells you to do. You're supposed to boost their confidence.
It seems like it would, but what you're actually doing is pushing them into a fixed mindset. When you praise them for a fixed trait like intelligence, they immediately become afraid of doing anything that might disprove that label, so they start rejecting challenging tasks.
They choose the easy path where they're guaranteed to look smart.
Exactly. And the most startling consequence of this was shown in a study where researchers took ordinary kids and, by simply telling them they were smart, made them into liars.
They lied. About what?
They lied about their test scores when they were given a chance to. Not because they were bad kids, but because the pressure to protect that smart label was so intense, it became more important than the truth.
Wow. So it's this fixed mindset that makes us so vulnerable to labels in general, both the good and the bad.
It does, and this connects directly to the research on stereotype threat.
Can you explain that a bit?
Claude Steele and Joshua Aronson found that negative stereotypes like women are bad at math, for example, they only really get to people who have adopted a fixed mindset.
Because a stereotype creates this distracting worry.
Yes. It creates this huge cognitive burden. They're so busy worrying about confirming the negative stereotype that it uses up their working memory and their test scores actually go down.
But the growth mindset.
It takes the teeth out of the stereotype. If they believe ability can be expanded, they just don't buy into the idea of permanent inferiority. A bad score is a signal to work harder, not proof of a fixed flaw.
This vulnerability to judgment plays out massively in our romantic relationships, too.
Absolutely. The fixed mindset falls into what Dweck calls the compatibility trap.
The Hollywood idea of meant to be.
Exactly. The belief in instant, perfect, and perpetual compatibility. And the toxic belief that follows is, if we have to work at our relationship, it wasn't meant to be.
So when the first real conflict happens, they think it's over.
Right. They don't see conflict as an opportunity for growth. They see it as proof of incompatibility. And they start assigning blame not to behaviors, but to fixed character traits.
So it's not you left your socks on the floor. It's you are an irresponsible slob.
Precisely. And if the problem is who your partner is, then it feels unsolvable. It leads to anger, disgust, contempt.
Whereas the growth mindset is about working happily ever after.
It understands that all good relationships require immense effort, especially around communication and conflict. It's about strategies, not traits.
Like the story of Ted and Karen. He comes home to a messy house.
And his fixed mindset voice wants to scold her for being irresponsible. But he stops, and he asks the growth-minded question, what is the mature thing to do?
And instead of judging, he just starts cleaning. He chose support.
He saw the messiness as a symptom of stress, not a permanent character flaw. That small shift breaks the whole cycle of blame.
And this really defines how people handle rejection.
Oh, massively. A fixed mindset person feels permanently labeled unlovable after a breakup. They often lash out, they seek revenge to protect their ego.
But a growth mindset person.
They still feel the pain, of course, but they focus on learning from it and moving on without letting the rejection define their worth.
The ultimate example of this resilience has to be Nicole Contos.
That story is incredible. She was stood up at her own wedding, at the altar, in front of hundreds of people, the ultimate public rejection.
And instead of hiding in shame, which the fixed mindset would demand,
she changed into a black dress, went to her own reception, and danced by herself to I Will Survive. She refused to be defined by that humiliation. She took control of the narrative.
just incredible. Now, the fixed mindset also messes up friendships, doesn't it?
Through social competition, this idea of my success is your failure.
Where you feel personally diminished when your friend succeeds.
Because your sense of worth is comparative. It's zero-sum. If they do well, you must be a little less special.
Which leads to that bizarre fly fishing story.
Right, where the host's husband is asked by his friends, David, how are you coping? Just because his wife caught a fish. They literally could not imagine a world where her success didn't diminish him.
And finally, this intense focus on judgment is what fuels shyness and social anxiety.
It makes perfect sense. If your main goal is to avoid being judged negatively, you become intensely shy, and that fear of rejection makes you act distant or awkward.
Which pushes people away.
And reinforces the very isolation you are afraid of in the first place. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, so understanding the two mindsets is one thing. But the real question is, how do we actually cultivate and teach the growth mindset?
And this is where we see the most dramatic effects, especially in education, with what the sources call the great teachers.
People like Marva Collins in Chicago.
Right. She worked with inner-city kids who had been completely written off by the system, labeled learning disabled, even retarded.
The system had slapped a fixed label on them.
And she just refused to accept it. From day one, she promised these kids they would learn. She set incredibly high standards. They were reading Shakespeare, Aristotle, in this loving but very strict atmosphere.
Her core question wasn't, can these kids learn?
It was, how can I teach them? The exact same philosophy as Yumi Escalante, the calculus teacher from Stand and Deliver.
And they both emphasized process praise and hard work.
Their mottos were all about effort. Success is not coming to you, you must come to it. There are no shortcuts.
And this approach has now been formalized in programs like brainology.
Which is just brilliant in its simplicity. It's an 8-session program that teaches students the basic science of neuroplasticity.
You teach them that the brain is like a muscle.
Exactly. That when you challenge your mind and struggle, your neurons actually form new, stronger connections. It gives them a tangible scientific reason for why effort matters.
And the results were pretty striking.
Oh, yeah. The students in the brainology workshop showed a big jump in their grades in math. The control group, who just got regular study skills training, showed no gains at all.
And the students actually internalized it.
They did. They
Yeah.
said they would picture their neurons growing when they were doing hard work. It empowered them. They felt like they were in charge of their own intelligence.
So we have to apply this to our own parenting, our own feedback.
And that means making a very sharp distinction between constructive criticism and judgmental criticism.
Judgmental is, you are dense or irresponsible. It attacks the person.
Whereas constructive criticism focuses on the process. This strategy didn't work, so let's figure out how to build a better one.
The story of Elizabeth, the young gymnast who lost a competition, is such a powerful example of this.
It is. Her growth-minded father could have given her false praise or blamed the judges, but he didn't.
He sympathized with her disappointment, but then he told her the truth.
The constructive truth. He said, "You haven't really earned it yet," and pointed out that other girls had simply worked harder on their weaker routines.
That sounds kind of harsh on the surface.
It might, but it's the foundation of real confidence. It made it clear to her that the path to winning was through more strategic effort, and she went on to do exactly that and win a major championship.
So withholding constructive criticism, it doesn't help. It actually harms their future.
It robs them of the information they need to grow.
Okay, so for all of us listening, how do we start this journey ourselves? Dweck outlines a 4-step process.
Step 1 is maybe the hardest. Embrace your fixed mindset.
Meaning, just acknowledge that you have one.
Yes. Don't judge yourself for it. Everyone is a mix. Just accept that that voice is in there.
Step 2 is to become aware of your triggers.
You have to figure out what situations bring that fixed mindset persona out. Is it failure? Is it criticism? Is it seeing someone who's better than you at something?
That's when the internal judgment starts.
Right. And step 3 is fun. Name your fixed mindset persona.
Give it a name. Like Gertrude.
Exactly like Gertrude or Sugar Daddy. By giving that critical, self-protective voice a name, you externalize it. You can observe it instead of being possessed by it.
It's not me anymore. It's Gertrude worrying again.
And that allows you to move to step 4. Educate it. You take that persona on the journey with you. When you're triggered, you can say, "Thanks, Gertrude, for the warning, but the goal right now is to learn."
So you invite it to come along, but you explain that the effort and discomfort are necessary for growth.
You turn that fixed monologue into a dialogue. Yes, Gertrude, it's possible I'm not good at this yet, but I'm going to try this new strategy for a bit and see what happens.
And the more you practice that, the more the growth mindset becomes your default operating system.
That's the whole journey. Replacing that framework of rigid judgment with a framework of continuous growth.
And that is the power of belief laid bare. These mindsets are our foundational operating systems.
They determine our resilience, our relationships, our leadership, everything.
It forces us to just completely reconsider what potential even is.
Right. If the quality of a person's mind and character can actually be changed through effort. If a Jack Welch can conquer his own arrogance. If a Billy Bean can learn how to fail.
If an uncoordinated kid can become Ben Hogan.
Then the crucial question isn't, do I have enough talent or am I good enough right now? No. The most provocative thought, the ultimate takeaway is this. How often do we prematurely judge our own potential or someone else's based on just one single snapshot in time?
A single test score. A single failure.
And what countless opportunities for monumental transformative growth are we missing right now as a result of that fixed judgment?
The journey to growth really starts the moment you ask, what can I learn from this?
Instead of, what does this say about me?
Keep exploring that question. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.